you're a practice owner and you've been evaluating a clinician's performance based only on their arrival rate and their visits per week, then you need to hear this. This might sound crazy, but it's true. You're losing serious money by not measuring the quality of your care against set standards. This is true even when all your clinician schedules are completely full. Being a healthcare practice owner is challenging. You know this. We're dealing with insurers paying you less and less, crazy rules and regulations, along with a scarce workforce of clinicians who demand top dollar when you have less dollars available. I always say this simple line: the only way to make more money is to make more money. Do you like money? Would you like to make more of it? If so, listen up. You can look around your clinic and see that every clinician is busy. Their schedules are full. That's the best they can do, right? Wrong. You see, you need to look for clues that can help you find and recover lost income in your practice that exists right now. If you aren't paying attention to the clues, you are losing money. It can be thousands of dollars. You see, most practices are built to maintain what they're currently doing. They are not built to expand. The focus is on handling what's in front of you right now. Now check this out. By establishing standards of care and grading performance of your clinical team against your established standard, you will bring about better compliance, higher arrival rates, less self-discharge, and a whole lot more. Every clinician on your team should be striving for this goal: to provide compliant, quality care and achieve great clinical outcomes. But if this is your goal, then I'm afraid you may be falling short. There is no mention in this goal of economic viability, so a more proper goal would be to provide compliant, quality care in a fiscally responsible manner and achieve great outcomes. It is vital that your practice performs well financially and that it's profitable. You're in a healthcare business. The better that you can wrap your arms around the business side of your healthcare business, the better your overall survival will be. Everything costs more money year over year, including salaries. Unfortunately, most of us live in an insurance environment that never gives us a cost of living boost. So we make up some of the shortfall by operating at a high degree of efficiency. You really need to know how to play the healthcare game. And never forget, the only way to make more money is to make more money. And of course, a clinician can only see so many patients. I agree with that wholeheartedly. But what if you found out 2 years ago that you should have hired another PT, but you didn't? You didn't have the thought to do it because everyone's schedule was full. So you missed the growth opportunity because you weren't paying attention to your standards of care. So in this situation, you simply failed to dive into the areas of lost income in your practice because you never established your clinical standards of care. So I see this all the time and it truly blows, right? So let's fix that. Here we go. No patient will ever come back to see you because of their modalities. That is for sure. They come back because of your skill, your hands-on care, your care factor, and your ability to get results every single day. I speak to hundreds of practice owners per year, and one thing that I always ask in my seminars is if anyone would like to define quality care to the audience, right? There's always silence in the room for a few seconds while everyone tries to figure out, like, how would they best define quality care? The answers are usually very nebulous and very subjective. It should be objective. You should define quality care as meeting or exceeding your established standards of care. To create your standards of care, you should figure out your performance expectations in areas such as how long the patient should be in the clinic each visit. What are the ideal number of units per visit? What's the percentage of units which are therapeutic exercise and manual therapy, for instance? You see, the percentage of TheraX and manual that you deliver is a key measure and could overnight make you more money if you managed it well. Here's a little story. I had the good fortune to look at the coding patterns of 187 clinics and could evaluate many things about these clinics from the coding alone. You see, I worked as a VP of operations for a private equity firm where we bought physical therapy clinics. We had our own custom-built EMR. I was able to see if the patient was progressing, which clinicians were getting the best results, and who was delivering, basically great care based solely on what codes were being used. So if I could see it, so I imagine insurance companies could see it too. So our coding should progress as our patient's case progresses, right? You shouldn't use the same codes, particularly if your patient is progressing. Assuming your clinicians know how to treat well and they know how to code properly, your standards of care will need to show patient progression. So as an example, in the beginning of care, you're likely to have more hands-on, the patient's in pain and has a lot of restrictions, so they may be able to provide only therapeutic exercise and manual therapy. So in this case, it's likely your patient is only laying flat on their back and they're counting the ceiling tiles if you do all the work while they lay on the table. But as the case progresses, you get the patient patient up on their feet. You start to increase the patient's activity level and participation level. When this happens, you utilize a wider array of time-based codes such as therapeutic activities, neuromuscular reeducation, gait, you got it, right? This is why I always like to see less than 50% of the skilled codes that you choose to be therapeutic exercise and manual therapy. We don't want to be choosing them more than 50%. Otherwise, we won't be able to show the progression. So you likely know this, but insurance companies reimburse less for TheraX and manual, but reimburses neuro and therapeutic activities better. So why is that? It's because therapeutic activities in neuro are more functional. These codes are selected because you're improving the patient's reaching, sitting, standing, walking, all the ING codes. So you're improving function, and insurance companies, well, they like that, right? So neuromuscular reeducation and therapeutic activities generally pay more and are more engaging for the patient. Insurance companies recognize that gets the patient back into function faster, and they'll pay a little bit more for that. This is very important to note. Most of us are progressing our patients in this way, right? So when we look at benchmarks to predict successful outcomes, we need to establish what benchmarks we would want to measure in your standard of care. And this would be an area we want to pay attention to. So we need to measure and set standards for how many visits a full-time clinician should be seeing per week. Like, what's a full schedule, right? What is their targeted arrival rate? What's their average patient frequency? Meaning, how often should their patients come to physical therapy each week on an average? What should be the average visits to discharge? How many skilled units per visit are you choosing, right? What percentage of your units are you choosing that are therapeutic exercise and manual therapy? We want it under 50%, remember? Let's take a look at these benchmarks from what I commonly expect. Each PT sees between 60 and 65 visits per week. If they work hourly, they would see maybe 1.5 visits per hour, which would equal 60 patient visits if they worked 40 hours, right? There should be an arrival rate of 94% or higher. The visits to discharge should run somewhere between 12 and 14. And of course, we want the average patient frequency greater than 2.0, ideally 2.1 or 2.2, right? I have an abstract of an article that I can share with you that connects the impact of successful patient outcomes by improving the patient frequency. The higher the frequency, the higher the percentage of successful outcomes. We want every clinician to achieve these standards of care with every patient and see 12 to 14 visits per day. Within the standard of care, it would be expected that there's a written success story or testimonial or an online review from every single patient. If we look at, I saw 100 patients, there should be at least 100 testimonial success stories or reviews written. That's a pretty high bar. If you put it there and you pay attention to it and you measure performance against that, you're going to lift that bar. You're going to raise the bar significantly. So lost income can be defined as the money that you could have made but you didn't. And remember, the only way to make more money is to make more money. If you wish to establish standards of care in your practice, there's a link down below where you can download an implementation program to get this rolling into your practice. Have a great one.